National University Sudan, Faculty of Postgraduates, Administrative Science, MBA program, Managerial Economics. I'm Dr. Magda Mustafa Sadiq. I will be with you today in Lecture 3, Consumer Behavior and Customer Value. Good morning, my students. Welcome to today's lecture on Consumer Behavior and Customer Value. In previous lectures, we discussed demand and market behavior. Today, we move to a deeper question. Why do consumers buy certain products? Managers cannot make effective pricing, marketing, or production decisions unless they understand how consumers make choices. Today's lecture combines classical consumer theory with modern managerial applications. By the end of today's lecture, you should be able to explain consumer choice using utility theory, distinguish between cardinal and ordinal utility, explain indifference curves and consumer equilibrium, understand income and substitution effects, drive demand from consumer choice, explain customer value and willingness to pay, apply total economic value in pricing decisions. These concepts form the theoretical foundation of many managerial decisions in pricing, marketing, product design, and competitive. Let us come to cardinal versus ordinal approaches. Historically, economists developed two approaches. The first one is cardinal utility. The cardinal approach assumes utility can be measured numerically. For example, eating one apple provides 20 units of utility. Eating a second apple increases total utility to 35 utils or units. The additional utility is 35 minus 20 equal 15 utils. This leads to the concept of marginal utility. Marginal utility is the additional satisfaction obtained from consuming one more unit. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that as consumption increases, each additional unit provides less extra satisfaction. For example, first slice of pizza, very satisfying. Second slice is still enjoyable. Third slice, less enjoyable. Fourth slice, you might not even want from it anymore. This explains why demand curves slope downward. Now, consider the second approach, ordinal utility. Modern economics argues that satisfaction cannot actually be measured. Instead, consumers only rank alternatives. For example, a consumer prefers bundle A over bundle B, but we cannot say bundle A gives exactly twice as much satisfaction. Ordinal utility is therefore based on ranking rather than measuring. This approach is far more realistic and forms the basis of modern consumer theory. Let me take a laser pointer or a laser pen. So this is, if this is product X and this is product Y, this is the indifference curve where all combinations from X and Y provides you with similar utility. Higher indifference curves, Y1, Y2, will give the consumer higher utilities. Two curves do not intersect. You cannot find two indifference curves like this. Why? Why? This is very evident. Since every indifference curve will give you the same amount of utility, then it will never happen that they will cross each other, because Y2 should give you a different utility from Y1. But at the intersection point, it seems like they give you similar utility. Okay? The further away from origin, the greater the consumer satisfaction. As this is the origin point, as the indifference goes away from the origin point, utility will increase. So if we have, this is U1 and this is U2 and this is U3, U3 is larger than U2, larger than U1. Okay? Indifference curves never intersect. If they crossed, consumer preferences will become inconsistent, which violates the assumption of rational behavior. Finally, the marginal rate of substitution, MRS, the rate at which a consumer is willing to trade one good for another while remaining equally satisfied. Look here to this indifference curve. We have this X and this is Y, and this is the indifference curve. Let us call it I0. And if you are having this bundle where X is, Y is 1 and X is 5, for example, this one. This is 5 and this is 1. So if you have to give up from X, you want to reduce your consumption from X, it means you need to increase from Y, like this. So if you want to increase from Y up to 2 points, it means that you have to decrease your consumption from X. Why? Because you are constrained with your budget. You are constrained with your budget. So the marginal rate of substitution measures how much of one good the consumer is willing to sacrifice to obtain another while remaining equally satisfied. That is why it is the rate of change in Y in X divided by the rate of change in Y, because the marginal rate of substitution is the slope, or the slope of the indifference curve. Okay. Let us come to budget constraint. Consumers may want everything, but they cannot afford everything because they are constrained with their income. This is where the budget constraints enters. The budget line shows, this is a budget line. It looks like this. You can use this, the laser pointer. If this is product Y and this is product X. So if your budget is $50, let us say your budget is $50 and the price per unit from Y equal $5 and the price per unit from X equal $10. So if the consumer spends his entire income on Y, he will get 0 from X and 10 from Y. And if he spends his entire income on X, he will get 5 from X and 0 from Y. Then the line that connects those two extreme points is called budget line, where the consumer can reallocate his income between X and Y. So he may have Y1, X1, and Y2, X2, X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and maybe also X3, Y3. So this is the budget line, and the equation for the budget line will be M, which stands for income, equal the price per unit from X multiplied by the quantities purchased from X plus price per unit from Y multiplied by the amounts purchased from Y. So this defines a budget line whose slope is minus price X divided by price Y, and this is the market rate at which goods can be traded. The consumer's objective is simple: obtain the highest possible utility while remaining within the budget, just like this, And this should be, if this is Y and this is X, and this is his budget line, these are the affordable combinations. Those combinations along the budget line, he afford to purchase them. But along the indifference curve, this is the maximum utility he can get from purchasing X and Y. So the tangency point between X, between the budget line and the indifference curve, shows the consumer equilibrium. So the consumer equilibrium occurs where the highest attainable indifference curve touches the budget line. This point satisfies two conditions. The consumer spends all his income, and the marginal rate of substitution equals the price ratio, just like this. Marginal rate of substitution equal price X divided by price Y. This is called the price ratio. Okay? So another interpretation comes from the equimarginal principle. This is the equimarginal principle, where marginal utility from X divided by price per unit of X is equal to marginal utility from Y divided by, let us say, this is X, this is marginal utility of X, this is marginal utility of X divided by price X. Let us say this is 10 and this is 2 and this is 5. And we have also Y, and this is marginal utility of Y, let us say 3, and this is, let us say 12, and this is 5. Marginal utility of Y divided by price Y equal 5. So here this one is equal to this one, but the consumer should consume 3 units from Y and 2 units from X. So this is the margin, or this is the equimarginal principle. Consumers allocate spending so that the last dollar spent on every product generates equal marginal utility. Otherwise, they could rearrange spending and become better off. Income and substitution effects. Suppose the price of coffee falls. Why does demand increase? Economists divide the total effect into two parts. Substitution effect. Since coffee becomes more cheaper, consumers substitute coffee for tea. They will purchase more coffee and less tea. So this effect always works opposite to price. Lower price means higher demand, and people will substitute the cheaper products instead of the expensive ones. The other effect is income effect. A lower price increases real purchasing power. Why? Because if your budget is $50, for example, you have $50, and then before the price per unit is 10. So you will purchase 5 units from X. But if your budget still is $50, but the price of X dropped to $5, then you will purchase 10 units of X. And this is what we call increase in the purchasing power of the consumer. And this is the income effect. But the income effect depends on the type of the good. Sometimes we have normal goods, that is good quality goods. When your income increases, the demand for normal goods increases. When income increases, demand for normal goods increases. But the inferior goods with the low quality goods, when their income increases, when your income increases, your demand for them decreases. So, the normal goods, let us take the normal goods and try to explain it again. Both effects, the substitution effect and the normal effect, reinforce one another. Demand rises significantly. Why? Demand rises significantly when the price of a substitute increases. Let us say we have X and Y as substitutes. If price X increases, people will shift to buy more from Y. So if your income increases, people also increase their purchasing of normal goods. So for the inferior goods, it works in the opposite directions. Income effects works against substitution effect. But here, both they work together. In the normal good, both work in the same direction. But here, if income increases, demand for inferior goods decreases. And the demand for substitution goods increases also. Let us come to the given goods. The given goods. What do we mean by given goods? It's a rare case where the income effect dominates, producing an upward sloping demand curve. The demand curve for the given goods it's kind of goods that, for example, during wars you need more. You need more. So whenever, even if their prices increases, your demand for them increases. Do you remember during corona viruses, the demand for hygiene products increases? Even if their prices increases, the demand for them also increases. So these are unusual goods where the negative income effect is so strong that demand increases when price rises. Although theoretically important, they are rarely observed in real markets. Driving the demand curve. Now connect consumer theory with demand. Suppose we repeatedly lower the price of it just like this. Look, this is X and this is Y, and this is demand for X, for example. This is price X, and this is quantity from X. Okay, suppose we repeatedly lower the price of product X. Each new price creates a new consumer equilibrium. This is the budget line, and here is the indifference curve. Here is the consumer equilibrium. So if, for example, the price of product X increases, let us say this is Y and this is X. So the consumer income will change like this because you will consume more and more from X like this. So you will have more and more equilibrium points like this. So if you go like this, and this is price 1, for example, and this is, let us say this is price 2, and this is price 3. If you connect those, you will get demand curve. You will get the demand curve. So each new price creates a new consumer equilibrium. Each equilibrium provides a new quantity demanded. When we connect these quantities, we obtain the individual demand curve. This demonstrates the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. When we horizontally add all individual demand curves, we obtain market demand. Managers use this relationship extensively in forecasting sales. Let us come to customer value. The traditional economics focuses on utility. Modern management focuses on value. Customer value, so if we talk about consumer behavior, we talk about utility. If we talk about customer, we talk about value. We talk about value. Traditional economics focuses on utility. Modern management focuses on value. Customer value equals benefits received minus cost incurred. Costs include much more than price. For example, time, risk, effort, maintenance, learning cost. Therefore, a product with a higher selling price may still offer greater customer value. Think of smartphones. Premium phones cost more, yet many consumers willingly pay because they perceive greater benefits. Value-based pricing. Do you understand the consumer surplus? It's just like this. Look here. This is the demand curve. This is the price, X, and this is QX. So here is the market demand, that market price, equilibrium price. But the consumer is willing to pay more. For example, he wants to pay this one. So this area is called consumer surplus. This area is called consumer surplus. And why? Because this is the actual price multiplied by the quantity demanded. Here, this is the quantity demanded. So this is the area of price Q, price of Q multiplied by demand Q. This is this area. I can change the color if I can do it, so you will understand. This is the area of the revenue that goes, or the benefits that comes to the consumer. But if the consumer is willing to pay more, up to here, for example, so this area is called the consumer surplus. So it is price, this price, the new price, and this is the quantity. He will take less products. So this area, let me do it with another color, maybe the blue one. This area is called consumer surplus. I think now you understand the consumer surplus. Okay? Pricing solely on production cost. Instead, pricing should reflect customer value. The relationship is cost less than price less than customers willing to pay. The difference between cost and price becomes producer surplus. The difference between willingness to pay and price becomes consumer surplus. Effective managers balance both. If prices are too high, customers leave. If prices are too low, profits decline. Let us come to price discrimination and segmentation. Different consumers have different willingness to pay. Therefore, companies divide markets into segments. There are three forms: first degree, perfect price discrimination, charging each customer their exact willingness to pay. Rare, bespoke negotiated deals. This is very rare. For example, if you go to an auction, and here the auction based on the willingness to pay, the price in the auction or the products in the auctions is equal to the willing to pay of the consumer. The second degree, different prices based on quantity or product version. For example, in the aircraft's tickets, there is economy, there is business class, and so on. We have economy versus business class, student software versions, bulk discounts, and so on. We have also third degree, different prices for different groups. For example, in the bus, there is the student discounts, there is geographic pricing. Also for electricity, there is subsidized electricity and others. Senior citizen discounts, regional pricing. Successful price discrimination requires market power, heterogeneity, different willingness to pay, and no resale between customers, no ability to prevent resale or arbitrage. Product differentiation and positioning. Companies try to move consumers toward their products. They achieve this through differentiation. Examples include high quality, better design, superior customer services, strong brand image. So understanding consumer behavior is also improves demand forecasting. Managers may estimate price elasticity, income elasticity, and cross-price elasticity. These measurements support production planning and strategic pricing. What do we mean by price elasticity? The responsiveness in the quantity demanded when the price changes. How much the quantity demanded change if the price change. Here, how much the quantity demanded change when the income change. So the result here is either positive or negative. If the income elasticity is positive, this means that the type of the good we are dealing with is a normal good. But if it is negative, then it is inferior goods. For the cross elasticity of demand, we take price X with quantity Y. And if it is positive, it will be X and Y are substitutes. And if it is negative, X and Y complements. Let us come to value proposition design. Every successful business answers one question: why should customers buy our product instead of competitors? The answer is that value proposition. A strong value proposition clearly explains benefits, unique features, target customers, price justification. Managers combine customer value with competitive positioning to maximize long-term profitability. Let us move to worked examples and consider a SaaS company. The competitor charges $50 per month. The new software saves customers 10 hours each month. Suppose each hour is worth $15. Total benefit is 10 multiplied by 15 equal $150. The customer incurs an onboarding cost equivalent to $5 per month. Therefore, net customer value equals preference value $50 plus differentiation value $50 minus $5, which is equal to $195 per month. If the company charged $95 per month, consumer surplus will be equal to $150 minus $95, which is $96 per month. Managers use this analysis to justify the premium pricing. I advise students to solve these review questions carefully and encourage discussion before revealing answers with your colleagues. Today we connected classical economic theory with managerial decision making. We learned that consumers maximize utility. Choices are limited by budgets. Demand arises from consumer optimization. Customer value determines willingness to pay. Managers should price according to value rather than simple cost. Understanding consumer behavior enables firms to design better products, forecast demand more accurately, improve pricing strategies, and achieve sustainable competitive advantage. Thank you for your attention. In our next lecture, we will continue applying managerial economics to business decision making and explore additional tools for strategic managerial analysis. Goodbye, my students.